All right. Shalom, salama. Welcome. Welcome to Q2UA discussions. I'm your host, Paris Copeland. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for showing up. I know it's been a hard week for folks. Yeah, thank you, Only Truth. Yeah, I sound better. I feel better. I needed that rest. I have really been going hard for like the last 6, 7 months. And it was interesting because as I was going hard, especially the last 90 days, there was an impetus, on my spirit. And I know the Most High was like, slow down, slow down, slow down. And then, I didn't slow down. And so he had to slow me down. And let me tell you, being around kids all day, it already weakens your immune system. You're around kids. You're around kids. And when you understand how kids are and the nature of kids, you got to remember they're not adults. They're not adults. So, they'll cough, they'll sneeze, they'll wipe and touch on each other and everything else. And, you fist bump, and trust me, I have my Purell. So, over the course of honestly the last almost 75 days, to not be to not go down like that. My second week, I went down pretty hard, but that was Friday, Saturday, was able to kind of recover Sunday, and then back to work on Monday. And that's just the nature of the game when you are teaching. That's why they give you a lot of sick days as a teacher. They know you are going to be sick around the kids. That's just how that goes. So that Wednesday, I had to call the VA. I said, hey, I am not doing hot, and I rarely ever call you that I need to come in and see somebody. And it's not that the kids are batteries, it's just that you're dealing with literally biological weaponization. Kids can shake off all of the the what is the word for it? All of the viral, bacterial, epidemiological issues, right? They can shake that off really well. And and I've noticed a couple of kids, you know, them folks that they don't shake it off very well. They're out days and weeks. So right now, what I'm actually dealing with just a little bit of congestion and things of that nature, and that's just because of this. It's a hellacious pollen season here, not just where I'm at, but here in the South, where you have a lot of different things that had come through when the ecology got wrecked. It got wrecked. And I don't think a lot of people can truly understand the amount of devastation that had occurred. And that devastation was also in the farmlands, the farming areas. here in Florida. Parts of Florida sits as a bowl. You have a ridge, the ridge comes down, then the ridge kind of goes up. Believe it or not, Orlando sits in kind of, they call it's a saddle. That's the proper geological term, in the saddle of that ridge. And when you're in the saddle of the ridge, it doesn't drain the way that it would normally drain. It actually drains out via the elevated water tables. So it drains slower, and then as it drains slower, it gets more into the lowlands. I'm technically sitting in the lowlands. I'm on the southern western ridge. And then from where I'm at, it literally drains into Hillsborough River, into Hillsborough Bay, and then into Tampa Bay. That's how that goes. And then out to the Gulf. And that process of receding wasn't like a 2 or 3 week process. It was literally about a 3, 4 month process. And the rivers are still technically running relatively high even right now. So water levels had increased in Florida. So when people talk about, oh, they're going to rebuild, and it's like, no. Number one, look, they're even talking about a potential system at the end of this month. At the end of this month, a named system. And they're already having forecast in May. May. I like to listen to the weatherman, Mr. Weatherman Brian Shields, because I think he's a local weather reporter, but he's over in Orlando, and I'll see him on sometimes when I visit my dad. He'll be on the news, but he has his own YouTube channel, and I mean he does very very accurate forecast. And so understand this ecological catastrophe, it wreaks havoc because the trees are going to do what the trees are going to do. They're going to create more trees, and they're going to have an explosion of, their tree power, their tree creating power, in the form of pollen, and it will be stronger and go longer. So I'll deal with the raspy voice about March. I'll deal with the, you know, a little bit of the nausea and things of that nature around March time frame. Around this time, it starts to taper, but it's just been more in depth. And and getting back into not just being around people, but boy oh boy, being around kids on a daily basis. Yeah, it's a germ factory. It's a germ factory, but it's been a, I don't ever say, "Oh, I hate this, or I hate that." Look, I enjoy the fact that the Most High put me here because there are so many things that I had to learn because I had to learn how to message. I had to learn how to be effective at the messaging. See, when you are in a high level of academia, high level of, oh, I'm writing for a second published work in my dissertation. I'm writing to finish up my chapter 3, and then I'm writing to do my proposal defense, and now I'm writing to do my uh, institutional review board, which will allow me to do my um, interviews, and then for my interviews, I'm writing my chapters 4 and 5, which will be a little bit simpler, and I believe I could get my 4 and 5s done in a matter of about 2 or 3 weeks. It's about 50 pages. In 50 pages, it ain't really all that bad. It's really not. Half of those pages is done via like a computer program and stuff like that. The other 25 pages is really like, my opinions, based off of what I've seen and further research, and that's the easy, right? It's the downhill, that's the easy. And then I defend again, and then after I defend, then I have to get it published. So it has to be edited. Then it gets published. And then I get conferred as a doctor of business administration. And you know what? The funny thing is, back in 2021, I was like, I don't need to do this. I need to worry about X, Y, and Z. I need to worry about X, Y, and Z. And it was funny because at this same time, I was thinking, I said, Father, am I gonna finish this up? Am I gonna finish up my doctorate? And most times like, you're gonna finish your doctorate. But what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And the reality is that the only thing that we do is we talk ourselves out of the blessing. Let me tell you what is going on, because words have power. And if you hadn't know it, for folks that didn't realize, April 1st, I called for help on getting a medical supply container out to the continent. If you are new to Q2UA, if you are new to this channel, this has been the video. This was one of the videos. I don't have it on here. Sorry. Yeah, if I play it on there, it'll. But yes, basically, we have been working to get a medical supply container out to the continent for over 18 months. For over 18 months. And during that time, it has been very tumultuous. It's been very hectic. And for the last couple of months, I was sitting on the container. I was sitting on, not the container, but I was sitting on the promotion of the container. I was sitting on it. And I said, you know what? Father, I thank you. However, I said, I'm not going to put my attention into it right now. That's what that was my thought process. And back in, let me tell you about this. It ramped back up because from there we did the Invest in Africa seminar. From the Invest in Africa seminar, we were graciously honored by having Her Excellency, and that is true, it's Her Excellency, Dr. Ericana Shirinbori Kwao, as our distinguished speaker. And what we are accomplishing was really from the Invest in Africa seminar. Because from that seminar, the seminar was an invite to be a delegate of African diasporans under ADDI to represent the African diaspora in Burkina Faso. And so when Garth and I had gone there, we were focused on a couple of different priorities. We were talking about infrastructure, right? Helping them with energy programs, things of that nature, health, mining, agriculture, you name it. There was a couple of different things, education. But one of the biggest things that stood out was their health and medical. And we said we could do this. We know the people that can do it. We could talk to them. We can work on this. We could do this and we could do that. And now, mind you, how we came with it was we came through because we were like, okay, we got invited here. So, they just need to pony up and ante up and go from there. And we're all good in the hood. And the reality is this: Africa has everything that they need. The only thing that they need from us is literally just our brain power, our leadership, our resilience, our fortitude. They need all of the capacities that we have given this nation to be the nation that is really on top. And now, in the course of this week, you now see that this nation is vying to stay on top while other countries are gunning for this nation in the course of a week. In the course of a week, 401ks have been threatened. In the course of a week, Social Security has been threatened. In the course of a week, financial instability has manifested. See, the reality is now they are feeling how we're feeling because the curses have literally been reversed. And now we are coming together as a people to undergo economic opportunities that lie elsewhere. And let me tell you how important this is as I go through my soliloquy. Excuse me. Here is the link for the container. Family, our goal is 50,000. 50,000 gets the container from Atlanta to the port, from the port to Ghana. That allows us all within that. It provides the oversight as we coordinate with the government of Burkina Faso to ensure that the container is delivered. No, I'm not going to put all the plans and the details here on the YouTube streets. But it is a diplomatic, I would say, overture. Because when you are understanding diplomacy, diplomacy comes with certain goals. They've already told us their goals. They've already told us what they want to have built, what they want to have constructed, what they want to have manufactured. They've already told us that. We have the builders, we have the manufacturers, we have the suppliers, we have the contractors. We have everything that we need to do 95% of their work, of what, excuse me, of what they are asking for. Everything else comes after things have been built and constructed because that's the training. Part of what we have witnessed over in the community in the last, actually, wow, couple of days, that was through the, we had a lack of diplomacy when we first came on in. That's just how it goes. People understand the goals, but they have to understand your goals and how you are able to nourish and foster the relationships. We always want things transactional, and I get it. That's the funk that we bring with us from the lands of our captivity. I get it. Our accountability is showing the process through and through, documenting the process through and through. and providing that to our community. But we have to be able to be very, very wise in terms of how we release those press releases. We have to. And it's real simple. Q2UA is a nonprofit organization. Our books are open to everyone. Transparency, nonprofit. That's by IRS design. So that's how we maintain our 501c3. That's the easy answer on that one. But I understand that over the course of time, man, we've had terrible missteps as a people. And I get it. Look, there was literally a breakdown of how you engage a people. You want to know how many times I was trained on that? Over half a dozen times. So basically, I'm going to say dozen and a half, like around 20 times. How you go up to people, how you talk to people, how you engage with people, from the smallest of the small to the top of the top. How you engage with military, gifts. I used to work with the I used to work with a Caucasian guy. His name was Harry. He would say, Karis, remember, make sure you have plenty of gifts. And he was absolutely correct. I would spend about 70, 80 bucks out of my own pocket just to give gifts. And when I'd go and travel in the Middle East, I give those gifts to people. Here you go. Thank you. To the people of honor, to honor them. Hey, thank you for being here. Or, thank you for inviting us. Thank you for allowing us. It seems so innocuous, so mundane, so simple. But let me tell you, that meant the world to them. We think that, oh, well, that's kind of petty and that's kind of this and that's kind of that. And honestly, no, it's not. This is Southern African eye. China and EU are committed to open and free trade, upholds multilateralism, and opposes unilateral tariff hikes. We're actually witnessing the end of dollar dominance, de-dollarization, de-westernization, whatever you want to call it, all happening right now. Folks are responding. Folks are saying food which can be found from, let's see, many South American countries, even Africa. In fact, they started to import a lot of soybeans from Brazil instead of the US after the tariff war, and that turned out fine for them. And this one, the International Trade Council, China engages Saudi Arabia and South Africa in strengthening trade ties amid U.S. tariff shifts. That's an hour ago. China engages Saudi Arabia and South Africa in strengthening trade ties amid U.S. trade Are U.S. tariff shifts. It gives you a link. Sorry, really no link. It just blows that on out. On Friday, she welcomed Spain's Pedro Sanchez after talking to Saudi Arabia and South Africa. She said there will be no winners in a tariff war, and going against the world will isolate oneself. Did anybody happen to see um, that there was a helicopter crash that happened in New York, and the family happened to be visiting from Spain? I'm not saying that there's any connections, but those are a lot of the things that have you go, hmm. But I want to touch on this because I want to have you understand the geopolitical angles that's occurring right now. This is a geopolitical angle. And let me scroll this down so you can understand what China is doing. China engages Saudi Arabia and South Africa. The questions that people are asking: why Saudi Arabia? Why South Africa? Here's the thing: South Africa is really your heart of Africa, your influence of not just South Africa, but it's also an influence of West Africa. And it's a major force of BRICS influence, a major force of BRICS influence on the African continent. Here's the thing: China doesn't need to engage with AES, the Sahel, West Africa, you name it. They don't need to engage in there. They already got that on lock. But engaging with South Africa shores up BRICS's financial securities. Because understand what's getting ready to happen with BRICS Clear, M Bridge, and BRICS Pay. Those are all the financial settlement systems that had been worked out and planned on in the framework back in Kazan, Russia, October 22nd through the 24th. Now we're heading into 6 months post that summit, and now the global markets are going crazy, and now the tariff war is tit for tat. If you think that there's a coincidence, there's no coincidence. There's a reason I said April 15th. And I thank the Most High. We're going to make that deadline because we're going to get this container on the water at the end of this month. Because I want you to understand what is happening. Because you see what is happening. I don't need to go to just the local news. I mean, you're now seeing this. The meme wars. Now, the meme wars are funny, though. Those meme wars are funny, though. I can't lie. They got Musk, Trump. They even had Senator Scott. His face throwing brawls, someone on brawl straps. That mess was hilarious. Like, dang. I'm looking at China's digital operations, their AI operations for manufacturing, it just in textiles. They're not showing you how they've been probably more than likely manufacturing robotics, humanoid robotics. Interesting, isn't it? But understand what they're doing in the grand scheme of things. They're reducing their capacity. Excuse me. They're reducing the capacity to bring ships, to dock ships, to to, to disembark. Well, excuse me. And embark is to leave. Disembark is to load on. Yep. So they can't unload their cargo. They're not unloading their their frigates, their vessels, because docking in the US would be way too much money. So therefore, your capacity then to load ships with exports is also going to be hampered. And guess what? Those vessels don't want to lose money. So now the containers that had been regularly scheduled to leave to go to those places, well, let's just say this. If 75% of that load or that capable load is now at 75%, they got to now come up with that 25% difference. Where does that difference come from? It comes on and gets carried on off to the containers. They got to pay the price. We didn't get our anticipated load. So now everything that's being loaded here, everything that's being contracted here, well, you're going to now start to pay the difference. So if there's going to be a difference getting paid out, there's also a difference that's going to be paying to come in. These are the these are the global economic realities of when you're dealing with global trade. And yes, when Trump signaled that April 2nd, that's usually about a 30 to 45-day window. And now with everything else happening April 10th, now that window, now that margin got even smaller. What does the container do? The container is a gift. What does that gift do? That gift is a gift that gives us favor in all of these endeavors that we're trying to do. Endeavors that are behind the scenes and endeavors that are publicized. Yes, you get support. And that support usually comes in the form of funding. Having endeavors that is a unilateral approach never works. It doesn't. The Most High has us as an army. If you have an army that's everybody's doing their own thing, that's not an army. I know a lot of our people, a lot of platforms, a lot of different channels. I get it. It's now easy to pick on this community. It's easy. But you want to know the hardest thing to pick on is when we get results. And those results don't come with our action. Those results come with his favor because of our actions. We get blessed when we become obedient. Obedience is what? Better than sacrifice. And guess what? A whole bunch of folks are going to have to start sacrificing a whole bunch of things, especially their budgets here in the near future. You know, the funny thing is, it was last year, I was thinking about this. I brought this on. There's a lot of things that I think about, I plan. I literally have like plans. I'm a planner. I'm a plans guy. I'm a strategic plans guy. That's literally what I've done for like the last 10, 15 years of my military career. Plans. Intel planning, operational planning, strategic planning, national planning, operational planning, tactical planning, you name it. In the commercial sphere, project planning, program planning, portfolio planning. From high level to the nitty gritty, from the benefits to the wire frames. from the services and results to the products and product features. There's one thing that we always look at. What could be a result? What could be? Last year when I was thinking about all this, I said, you know what? We need to have some grocery services, some grocer services. There was a thought to have a logistics service to provide for fruits and vegetables from the continent. And it sounded so ridiculous at the time. Folks were trying to discourage. No, that's going to be a lot. No, that's going to be this. And I said, but what if we have that subsidized? What if the continent helps us? What if we get grants? I'm not going to go too far into this because that is part of what I'm planning and looking on moving. Because understand this trade war is going to limit a lot of things because other countries are always looking at a transactional benefit. They're looking at a profit. I could go much, much deeper into this. But because of YouTube and interesting ears that will pop up on different channels and say, oh, such and this, and understand why these attacks come, especially to members of our community. Keep Brother Yakoba and Brother Teyu and Sister Shonda and Pastor Rick Fletcher and Sister Gates Holder and you name it. Keep our people in your prayers because this was not going to be an easy fight. Part of fleeing is that you literally have to fight to survive. Well, no, the Most High said he's going to up, he's going to send his chariots, and we're just going to go this and go that, and we're just going to do that and do that. Yeah, after you're fleeing. Oh yeah, brother Charles, listen, I got ideas for days. Trust me. Because once this container takes flight, oh my goodness, I would love to share all of this strategy, all of the engagement processes, and things of that nature. I would love to do that, but it would have to be honestly for a select few of the willing. Because again, I'm not going to be able to do this all on my own. Let me tell you this. When I used to do these courses, if anybody would knows that if you worked at like a 4-star command or you worked in like in the 4-star command, like the State Department, Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, Department of Treasury, a whole bunch of other agencies and departments. And I've said this to you all, so this isn't a surprise. I said this to you all um, before. Yeah, and at different levels, if you're a GS 13 or above employee, you can get your um, you can get certain degrees from like different universities that they have. They have universities. The universities uh, I'm familiar with is the National Intelligence University and the Defense Acquisition University, and both universities are degree conferring universities for masters and above, or excuse me, master's level and above. The only thing I didn't do in pursuing those is that I was just overwhelmed with different things. I had already had my own master's program in business administration. I didn't feel like anything else. The reason I can speak on this is because my cousin goes through one of those universities in his professional capacity. And I believe he graduated last year. He did. He was telling me about it. And I said, "Oh, that's awesome," because I heard about that 10 years ago. It was just easier for him. He had lived in DC, so he was able to get it knocked out. But at these classes that they would offer, that they would host by the State Department, and the State Department would bring in their, excuse me, the people that they would contract for. Now think about this. I have my certification. I have a USAID certification, and it was like military planning, a USAID military planning. I have it. I have that thing printed out somewhere. Part of what they were doing, they were literally charging in those 5 week, or excuse me, those 5 day classes, because they would bring in all of their people and all these high level people to make it a big deal. It was a State Department USAID class. And you would also have in other folks from outside the community. I didn't even realize that they were paying tens of thousands of dollars to attend a 5 day class. It was free for military. It was free for me. I'm like, all right, let me show up. A lot of these classes that I went to that were free, thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Because why? Because they wanted, these outside organizations wanted to show that their people had attended something. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Working, because a lot of us working in the private sector, especially if you're doing some sort of government or government contracts. Oh, I've done this, I've done that. My person's done this. He went to this class here, he went to that class there. That's how this thing goes. But understand, family, this is what this leads to. We don't have time to sit back and say that, you know what? If the Most High doesn't take care of me, well, the government's going to. My government's going to take care of me. Yeah, right. If you think that even this government's going to take care of you, why don't you talk to all those white folks that protested last Saturday? But this is what opens the door to open the door to much more, to much greater. This is how the door is opened. So yeah, family, I was gonna go over a little bit more, but honestly, Africa is gonna run from the west to the east. We already saw that coming, and now it's coming. The decoupling of the dollar is here, and deglobalization, de-westernization, and decolonialization is also here. The rise of Africa is happening right now as we speak. And family, I am asking you all to do heavy lifting, not just for us, but for our people in general, whether or not they're awakened or unawakened. Does it really matter anymore? This is for our people now. Because trust and believe that now at this week, I guarantee you a lot more of our people have had the wool taken over their eyes, taken off of their eyes. I believe it wholeheartedly, undoubtedly. Hallelujah. But yeah, family, I'm going to get up on out of here. Yes, my voice is starting to come back a little bit stronger day by day. Thank you all for the prayers. Keep praying for our people. Pray for our community. Pray for our people. But honestly, I'm excited to see everything that the Most High is getting ready to do. And boy, oh boy, is this an exciting season going and going in the Passover season. So whether or not you celebrate Passover this week, next week, I'm going to pray that you have a blessed Passover season in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, who is the ultimate Passover lamb. And we celebrate that Passover season in remembrance of him, not Ishtar. I had to throw that one in. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. With that said, family, most high willing, I'll be back on Monday, and we shall go from there. Hallelujah. Be sure, family, to tell your friends, family, co-workers, listen, while they can, donate. We all see what's happening. We all see what's coming. This is a time literally to open your mouths because now, to me, this is a time that honestly, a lot more of our people are ready to receive this. Hallelujah. So, with that said, family, most high willing, I will see you all next week. You all have an awesome Shabbat and Pesach if you're celebrating. Shalom, salama, family.